$8,700. With that being said, these two grants are going to be totally on their own. So you could get one, not the other. You could get them both, but they wouldn't be awarded as one package. It would be two separate awards. They're going to stand on their own merits. So basically, that's the proposal. We're looking, if we can put into our application that we've been in front of the board and our board supports it, that obviously puts us in a more favorable position than an application that goes forward that has not been in front of their board, which is one reason that Mark and I decided to come forward with it now. Look for that support if it's there, hopefully, and then once they open the grant period, which is, you said, possibly the second week of November?
Yeah, according to FEMA, it looks like the second week of November, the funding opportunity will open up. At which point in time, you're gonna have about 4 weeks to submit the actual grant package to FEMA. At that point in time, after the 4-week grant application period, grants close, they're up for consideration, and grant awards start being doled out January, February of 2016.
Dave,
Yes.
if I remember right from the past, if you were offered these grants, we still have to vote on whether we accept them or not, don't we?
You'd have
At the
to.
time.
You'd have to
I
go.
mean, we can vote to proceed to
Correct.
try to get the grant, but we still have to vote on.
We'd still
whether-
come back to the board because you'd have to vote to
Accept.
actually appropriate the funds.
Right, yeah, okay.
And both items are under that 10,000 threshold, where if you decide, if the council decided they could move forward, if they chose to, we would hope that in allowing us to proceed, that we would hope in the future that you would still support a grant award. With that being said, obviously we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the economy in the next 4 or 5 months, we don't know. I mean, we don't know what. But if everything stood the same as it does tonight, we would hope that a yes, go forward with this, chief, would hopefully turn into support for the dollars come February, March, whenever that process happens.
How long do the packs last?
Life expectancy is about 15 years.
Bottles,
Pardon?
well, bottles too,
Yeah,
depending on
Depends
if
on-
they're steel or
aluminum
or whatever.
carbon fiber wound, yeah.
That's a variable too, because then you go 5, 10, 15 years, and I don't know what yours are, so,
Yeah,
I mean, that's an additional,
yeah, we got 50.
and that's not a cheap replacement.
They're
How
they're
many would you
$800
be
a bottle.
replacing? How many would you be replacing?
Right now, we have 17, and we are proposing to add to that by 2 to, so that for your ISO ratings, to have a Class A pumper, you have to have 4 air packs on it. And right now, we'd only have 2 on either engine 5 or engine 3. So if we can add to that, then that helps our classification. So
Dave, you mentioned that you'd got some grants in before, but you didn't tell the people that don't have this sheet of paper what those amounted to.
yep, sure.
On page 2 there.
Starting in 2004, we were awarded a grant for a total project cost of $414,590. That was for our ladder truck. That cost the town approximately $40,000 for that piece of apparatus. In 2005, we received a grant for half of our current stock of air packs that we're talking about replacing now. And at the time, the price has gone up on these things tremendously. At the time, that was $28,720. So through 2 NFPA upgrades, the cost of that piece of equipment has tripled, more than tripled. Obviously, keeping us safer. Technology, they're leaps and bounds over what we have, but it's unbelievable to look at the dollar volume. We replaced all of our firefighting turnout gear at a project cost of $37,000. We replaced all our hose, and our firefighting tools, $78,000. We bought a compressor so that we could fill our own bottles, our own air pack bottles, a compressor and a fill station, as well as training material, which included at the time, included a laptop and training material for firefighting programs. That was $57,000. And we received, the last one that we received was for extrication equipment, which replaced our, better known as Jaws of Life, and that was $42,000. So over that, all those projects, we were looking at just over $650,000 of equipment and apparatus trucks coming to Oakland at a cost to the town of Oakland of $53,000. And we're looking to hopefully continue our success with those, obviously, and be able to replace some equipment that we're gonna have to replace at some time, hopefully at a lot less price tag.
How much time is there, Dave, between application acceptance of the grant to actual expenditure?
It varies. It's a federal program. Like Mark said, that what they're estimating now is that you know, the program will stop, and they think by February or March they'll start announcing the first round of bids.
Yeah.
And they announce so many a week for weeks, months. And reality is, you probably wouldn't see them start to be announced probably until late spring.
I was wondering how long the town has before they have to commit.
Oh, I see. Once you receive,
Yeah. There's usually a closing date for spending the money.
yeah, it's once you're awarded the grant, and Ned, I don't remember exactly what the time frame was. You receive a letter that says, basically it says, if you're awarded this grant, will you accept? And then you have a period of time, whether it's 30 days, I think it was, to respond to that.
Yeah.
So you got that time to come back in front of the board and say, okay, here's the actual cost, here is what the exact match is going to be.
And then the time.
How can we answer this?
The time after that is.
And then it's typically a year
One.
to fulfill the, your project. And you have to do quarterly, and like I said, I haven't done one of these in a few years, so it may have changed, but at the time, you have to submit a quarterly report where you're at. If you're purchasing more than one piece of equipment, you have to, you know, indicate what you've spent, how it's benefiting your community. It's pretty intensive, and they keep very close tabs on it. Yeah. That answered the question,
Yes.
once I got to the right question.
I'd make a motion that we authorize Dave to proceed with this application process. It saved us a lot of money in the past.
Second, all in favor? Thank you, Dave.
Dave, I
Thank you,
appreciate
John.
you
Thanks for
taking-
your hard work.
Mark, anything to add that I left out, or does that sound?
No, I think that's great. I mean, the actual application itself is gonna be fairly consistent this year with previous years in the past, so the application process will be very similar to what it has been in years past. The funding opportunity is going to be there this year. The playing field is likely not gonna be as broad because they're now requiring compliance with NFRS reporting, which the town of Oakland does. That's gonna probably knock out a few of the departments that don't do the NFRS reporting. So
What
we're
did
in
you call
good
that
situation.
reporting, Mark?
NFRS, it's National Fire Incident Reporting System. It's a program through the US Fire Administration to keep track of fire loss in the United States. And the town of Oakland does report into NFRS, so we've met those conditions of participation and we'll be able to move forward.
Mark attended the regional meeting on the grants. It was a night that had to be here at a council meeting, and he attended the meeting, so he has a little bit of knowledge on that, so.
How many hours does it take to fill out an application?
I'll keep track and let you know.
Mark, thank you for all your work on it,
Yeah.
we appreciate it.
There's a lot to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks for your support on
The
both projects.
next item on the agenda, discussing the first reading of the proposed Races Rips Road no-through truck restriction.
And I've changed everything remains the same as the last one.
we went with the no-through trucks and changed it from 26,000 pounds. I believe you have a copy.
Any questions on the no-through trucks? Everett, you're here
Yeah,
tonight.
could you explain that a little bit, what it's gonna be now?
Yeah, what we've done, actually, I changed it, Everett, because of conversations I had with Mike, and before we were proposing nothing over 26,000 pounds unless it came with a permit. After having discussions with several people that own gravel trucks and equipment trucks, I decided to change the direction to go through with no-through trucks. Meaning that if you were gonna be hauling gravel or material up to a house on one of those roads, on that road, you can come in from either way and leave that same way. You just can't go through the whole length of Races Rips Road. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna go and eliminate the tractor trailers from coming down through Races Rips Road.
Does that open you up for a lawsuit? You're telling somebody that they can do it and telling somebody else they can't.
Well, no, I'm not telling the other people they can't use the road, they just can't go all the way through. If they were gonna come down with a tractor trailer so that they wanted to deliver some material up to one of those houses, they could, as long as they left in the same direction they came in. They just can't go all the way through. And I don't believe I'm opening myself up for lawsuit at all on that, to be honest with you. The problem is, we have people who live on that road who've been complaining about these tractor trailers running at 2 o'clock in the morning. We've got students from Colby College who run down that road and exercise on that road, and they've got these tractor trailers with 100,000 pounds of weight on them, and they're running down through there above the speed limit. And it's been an ongoing problem now for about 10 years. And this is gonna bring peace to some of those people who live out there. We have another road in Oakland, Town Farm Road, no through trucks, over 26,000 pounds, and it hasn't been an issue. Do we have everybody that complies to that road? Probably not. I'm sure that if you sat up there, you're gonna find somebody that's gonna go all the way through. But the sign's on the end of the road, and most people pay attention to it. And it's gonna be no difference on the Races Rips Road. I've talked with the owners of the warehouse and explained my concerns and the concerns of people who live on the Races Rips Road. They don't disagree, something has to be done about it. But unfortunately, they don't own the trucks that are out there hauling on the roads, it's private haulers. And they're just gonna redirect their traffic onto Washington Street, and they're just gonna jump on the interstate with the same location. They're just not gonna be able to use the Rice Rips Road as a shortcut.
Okay, it's different than what I had heard, but I had also heard that, the trucks were ruining that road.
Well, I mean, certainly that road's in bad shape. As far as, we're gonna have to pay attention to that road at some point. It's gonna cost the taxpayers in Oakland a lot of money to fix it. When you're running down a road like that, it's certainly not helping it out with those heavy, it's not built for that kind of weight. I talked with Jeff Hall about this, and we're talking about the road cracking across the road and up and down the road, and the weight of those trucks aren't helping it any. My concern is not primarily the road condition, that's part of the equation. My concern is the safety of those young people who are using that road for exercise, and my concern of the taxpayers who live on that road who have to listen to those trucks, and they have to deal with those tractor trailers coming down that narrow road. Those are my primary concerns.
I'd make a motion we accept this as the first reading of this permanent road weight restriction for through trucks.
Second, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to the manager's report.
The only thing I have, which I don't have on yours, is we were approached today by Bob Knowlton. He's doing some work up on High Street, and he discovered that we actually have a town road that goes off from High Street that I never knew about. It's called Baker Avenue. Does anybody remember that? In 1913.
Almost remember that.
In 1913, the Oakland Town Council approved the road called Baker Avenue off from Baker Street. Well, High Street used to be named Baker Street. And that road still sits there, and the town still owns that road. It's actually up where the ice cream shop used to be. So it goes in there and it kind of takes an L up in there. And Jan does remember it.
I do. Mr. Herbert York used to live there. There's a big old yellow house and there were mobile homes in there.
So I've got this on the agenda for the 18th of November, and we're gonna discuss the town of Oakland disowning that road and giving it back. And, it's never been used, there's no signs of the road ever being in there. Granite Corporation, wants to utilize that property, they're buying that property, or have bought that property, or something along that lines, to gain access to the property in the back, so. I just wanna give you a heads up, so that you guys can do your homework on Baker Ave, if you want to.
That's all.
That's it.
Any further discussion from anyone in the audience? Is none. Mr. Morgan?
All set, sir.
Mr. Fisher?
All set.
All in favor? Good motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Thank you and good night, folks. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Fire.
See you, Martin.
I don't know.
That's it, kids.
Good? Yeah, good.
Things are off.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with what you've done.
Now that James has his license, I never see my car anymore.
Yeah, I saw him getting his car. How tall is he?
6'3".
Something I'm gonna do.